Hello, my friend. Welcome back. I'm really glad you're here with me today. This is English. With Thomas, a quiet place where we don't rush, where we don't perform, and where we don't try to be perfect. We simply sit together, breathe a little more slowly, and let English come to us the way real language always does through life, through feeling, through small human moments. Today, I want to talk about something very personal, something many of us carry quietly, something that shapes the way we speak, the way we learn, and sometimes the way we live. Today's theme is simple but deep. I used to overthink everything, not just big decisions, not just important conversations. Everything. What to say, how to say it, when to say it, and sometimes whether I should say anything at all. If you are learning English or any language, there's a good chance you know this feeling. That moment when a sentence forms in your mind, but stays there. That moment when you know the word, but you're not sure if it's the right one. That moment when your heart wants to speak, but your mind interrupts. Maybe you felt this too. So today, I want to take you on a gentle journey, not to fix overthinking, not to fight it, but to understand it, to soften it, and slowly, kindly, to move beyond it. Let me tell you a story. I remember a morning many years ago. I was standing in a small kitchen, holding a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. Outside, the city was waking up. I could hear distant traffic, a door closing somewhere, footsteps on the stairs. Nothing special, nothing dramatic, but inside my head there was noise. I was replaying a conversation from the day before. Something I had said, something I hadn't said. A different version of myself, one that spoke more clearly, more confidently, more wisely, was acting out the scene again and again. I remember thinking, why didn't I say that differently? I should have explained more. They probably misunderstood me. Next time, I'll do it better. But there was no next time. There was only that quiet kitchen and a cup of cold coffee. At that time, I didn't have the language to describe what was happening. I just thought I was being careful, thoughtful, maybe even intelligent. But looking back, I can say it more clearly now. I was overthinking, and overthinking has a special relationship with language. Because language lives in the present moment, but overthinking lives everywhere else: the past, the future, imagined conversations, imagined mistakes. When we overthink, we are rarely here. And English, like all real communication, needs us to be here. Let me share another small moment. I was teaching a class once, many years ago. A student raised her hand. She spoke slowly, carefully, and then she stopped. Her face changed. She looked down, and she said, very quietly, "Sorry, my English is bad." I remember that sentence very clearly. My English is bad. Not I'm learning, not I'm improving, just my English is bad. I looked at her and said, "No, your English is alive. It's just thinking too much." She smiled a little, but I'm not sure she believed me. Overthinking does that. It convinces us that silence is safer than mistakes, that thinking is better than trying, that waiting is better than speaking. But language does not grow in silence. It grows in movement. Now, let's slow down for a moment. I want you to repeat a simple sentence with me. Not fast, not perfectly, just honestly. Repeat after me. I used to overthink everything. Again, slowly. I used to overthink everything. Good. Now notice something. This sentence is not about now. It's about the past. I used to. This phrase is gentle. It doesn't judge. It doesn't blame. It simply says, This was once true. You can use this phrase in many ways. I used to worry a lot. I used to be afraid of speaking. I used to stay quiet in meetings. I used to think I wasn't good enough. When you say I used to, you are giving yourself space to change. You are telling a story, not a sentence. And stories are powerful. Let me continue mine. For a long time, I believed that good English meant correct English. Perfect sentences, no hesitation, no pauses, no mistakes. So before I spoke, I prepared. Before I wrote, I revised. Before I shared, I doubted. And the strange thing was, the more I thought, the less I spoke. Have you noticed this in yourself? Maybe you plan a sentence in your head. You change one word, then another. Then you think of a better way, then a more polite way, then a more natural way. And suddenly, the moment is gone. The conversation has moved on. The opportunity has passed. And you think, next time. But next time, the same thing happens. This is the quiet cost of overthinking. Not failure, but absence. Let's try a small exercise together. I want you to imagine a simple moment. You meet a friend. They ask you, "How are you?" Now, don't think too much. Just answer out loud if you can. You might say, "I'm okay. I'm a little tired today. I'm doing well. Thank you. I'm not great, but I'm trying." All of these are real English. All of these are enough. Notice how your body feels when you speak simply. There is often a small sense of relief. That relief is important because overthinking is often a sign that we don't feel safe enough to be simple. I want to say that again. Overthinking is often a sign that we don't feel safe enough to be simple. And this is not a weakness, it's a human response. Many of us learned in school, at work, in society, that mistakes are dangerous, that being wrong is embarrassing, that silence is safer than imperfection. So we think, we analyze, we hesitate. I did this for years, even outside language learning, before sending messages, before making decisions, before sharing feelings. I used to overthink everything. But slowly, and this is important, slowly, something changed. Not because I forced myself, not because I suddenly became confident, but because I started to notice. I noticed how tired I felt after thinking all day. I noticed how alive I felt after speaking freely, even imperfectly. I noticed that people rarely remembered my mistakes, but they always remembered my presence. And this is a key lesson. People connect with honesty, not perfection. Language is not a test, it is a bridge. Now, let's look at another phrase together. Repeat after me. I was afraid of making mistakes. Again, I was afraid of making mistakes. This sentence is also about the past. I was afraid, not I am afraid. That small change matters because language shapes identity. When you say I am afraid, you describe who you are now. When you say I was afraid, you describe a chapter, not the whole book. Now try changing it slightly. I was afraid of speaking English. I was afraid of sounding stupid. I was afraid of being judged. Say one of these out loud. Choose the one that feels true, and then, softly, add this sentence after it. But I'm learning to be kinder to myself. This is not just English practice. This is life practice. When I think back to that version of myself standing in the kitchen, holding cold coffee, replaying conversations, I don't feel embarrassed. I feel gentle understanding. He was trying to protect himself. He wanted to be seen as capable. He wanted to belong. Overthinking was his shield. Maybe your overthinking is also a shield. So instead of fighting it, what if we thank it and then gently set it down? Let me tell you another story. I was walking once in a quiet park. It was early morning. The air was cool, and the ground was still wet from the night. There were only a few people, a man walking his dog, a woman jogging slowly, lost in her own thoughts. As I walked, I noticed my mind starting to plan the day, what I needed to do, what I might say, what could go wrong. Then I heard birds, not loud, not dramatic, just present, and something about that sound brought me back. I remember thinking, they're not thinking about how to sing, they're just singing. Language, at its best, is like that. Not performance, not calculation, expression. Now, let's practice a phrase that helps us stay present. Repeat after me. In this moment. Again, in this moment. You can use this phrase to slow your thinking. In this moment, I'm listening. In this moment, I'm learning. In this moment, I'm enough. Try saying one of these. When you speak in the present, your mind has less space to overthink. This is why simple sentences are powerful. Not because they are easy, but because they are honest. I want to share something personal. Even now, as someone who teaches English, I still overthink sometimes. Before important conversations, before difficult messages, before sharing something meaningful. But the difference is this: I don't let overthinking decide for me anymore. I notice it, I acknowledge it, and then I choose to speak anyway. That choice to speak imperfectly changed my relationship with language, and it can change yours too. Let's look at a common sentence many learners say. I need more confidence. This sentence is understandable, but it puts confidence in the future like something you must earn before you speak. What if we change it? Repeat after me. I can speak even without confidence. Again, I can speak even without confidence. Confidence often comes after action, not before. Children don't wait to feel confident before speaking. They speak, they fall, they try again. Somewhere along the way, we forget that. So today, I invite you to remember that language is a living thing. It responds to use, not perfection. I used to overthink everything. Now, I think a little less and feel a little more. Before we come to the end of this journey, I want you to do one last gentle exercise. Take a breath and complete this sentence out loud in English. Today, I feel. Don't search for the perfect word. The first honest word is enough. Maybe you say, today, I feel calm. Today, I feel tired. Today, I feel hopeful. Today, I feel unsure. All of these are real. All of these belong. When we talk about our feelings, we are not just practicing vocabulary. We are practicing presence. We are practicing truth. We are practicing connection. And this is what English is really for. Not to impress, not to compete, but to connect. If you remember one thing from today, let it be this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are learning in your own rhythm. Overthinking does not mean you are weak. It means you care, and caring, guided gently, becomes clarity. Thank you for spending this time with me, Annie. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trying, even quietly. This is English with Thomas. I'm Thomas. Keep speaking, keep growing, and keep trusting yourself. And before we truly leave this space together, I want to stay with you a little longer. Not to teach you something new, not to add more information, but to let what we've already shared settle quietly inside you. Sometimes overthinking comes back when things become quiet. Have you noticed that when the noise of the world fades, when there is no task demanding your attention, your mind begins to speak more loudly? It replays, it predicts, it judges. This is often when learners tell me, at night my English disappears, or when I'm alone, I feel worse about my level. I understand that feeling very well. I remember evenings when I would lie in bed and think about words I didn't know, expressions I had misunderstood, moments when I had stayed silent even though I wanted to speak. My mind would turn language into a measurement of my worth, my intelligence, my future, and slowly, almost without realizing it, English stopped being a tool for connection and became a mirror for my fears. Maybe this sounds familiar. If it does, I want you to hear this clearly, gently, without pressure. Your value does not rise or fall with your fluency. Language is something you use, not something you are. Let me say that again, because it matters. Language is something you use, not something you are. Repeat after me, softly. English is something I use. Again, English is something I use, not something you must master before you deserve to speak. Not something that decides whether you are smart or capable. Just something you use like your voice, like your hands, like your breath. When I truly understood this, my relationship with English changed. I stopped asking, "Is this correct?" and started asking, "Is this honest?" I stopped chasing perfect sentences and started listening for real ones. And interestingly, my English improved. Because when we reduce fear, we increase flow. There is another quiet truth about overthinking that we rarely talk about. Overthinking often means we are trying to control the outcome. We want to make sure we are understood. We want to avoid embarrassment. We want to protect ourselves from judgment. This desire is human, but communication is not fully controllable. You can speak clearly, kindly, carefully, and still be misunderstood. You can choose the perfect words and still feel vulnerable, and that is okay. Real communication includes uncertainty. Let's practice a sentence that allows space for that. Repeat after me. I'm not sure how to say this, but again, I'm not sure how to say this but this sentence is powerful because it gives you permission to be imperfect. It tells the listener, I'm trying. Please meet me halfway. You can use it when you forget a word. You can use it when you feel emotional. You can use it when your thoughts feel unclear. I'm not sure how to say this, but I feel nervous. I'm not sure how to say this, but I need help. I'm not sure how to say this, but this is important to me. Notice how this phrase softens the moment. It lowers the pressure. It invites understanding instead of judgment. Overthinking often disappears when we allow ourselves to be human in front of others. I want to share one last memory. I was once in a conversation with someone whose English was far from fluent. His grammar was inconsistent. His pronunciation was uneven, but his eyes were alive. His hands moved as he spoke. His sentences were full of intention, and I remember thinking, I understand him perfectly, not because his English was perfect, but because his meaning was clear. Clarity does not come from complexity. It comes from sincerity. This is why simple English is not weak English. It is strong. It reaches people. It stays with them. If you are someone who overthinks, you may believe that speaking simply makes you sound less intelligent, but often the opposite is true. Simplicity shows confidence. Simplicity shows presence. Simplicity shows trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in the listener. Trust in the moment. So the next time you feel your mind racing ahead, correcting, analyzing, judging, try this. Take one breath and say one simple sentence. Not the best sentence, not the smartest sentence, but just the truest one. That is enough. As we come to the quiet end of this episode, I want you to remember that learning English is not a race, not a performance, not a test you must pass. It is a relationship. And like all meaningful relationship, it grows through patience, honesty, and gentle courage. I used to overthink everything. Now, I try to listen more. I try to feel more. I try to speak when my heart is ready, not when my sentence is perfect. And you can do the same. Thank you for walking with me today. Thank you for trusting this slow pace. Thank you for showing up even with doubt, even with fear, even with overthinking. And even after those final words, even after you think the episode is over, I like to imagine you still sitting there for a moment. Maybe the room is quiet. Maybe there is a small sound in the background, a fan, a car passing, someone moving in another room. Life continues softly, as it always does. This is often when overthinking tries to return. It says, did I understand everything? Was my listening good enough? Will this really help me? If those thoughts appear, let them appear. You don't need to push them away. Just notice them, the way you notice clouds moving across the sky. They come, they change shape, and if you don't hold them too tightly, they pass. There is something important I want you to know about learning, and especially about learning a language. Growth is often quiet. We expect big moments, sudden confidence, fluent conversations, dramatic improvement. But most real progress happens invisibly. It happens when you begin to feel less afraid of a sentence, when silence feels less heavy, when you choose to speak even though your voice shakes a little. Those moments don't announce themselves. They simply happen. I've seen this again and again with learners. One day, they don't say much. Another day, they say a little more. And one day, often without realizing it, they stop apologizing before they speak. That is a powerful moment. If you've ever started a sentence with "sorry, my English," I want you to gently let that go. You don't need to apologize for learning. You don't need to apologize for being in process. You are allowed to take up space with your words. Try this sentence with me. Say it calmly. I'm still learning. Again, I'm still learning. This sentence is honest. It is strong. And it is open. It does not rush. It does not explain too much. It simply states where you are, and where you are is enough. Overthinking often comes from the belief that where we are is not enough yet, that we must arrive somewhere else before we can relax, before we can speak freely, before we can feel proud. But learning does not work like that. There is no final version of you that suddenly becomes worthy. There is only this version, right now, listening, trying, growing. And this version deserves patience. I want you to imagine yourself speaking English in a very ordinary moment. Not a test, not a presentation, just a small human exchange. Ordering food, sending a message, saying how you feel to someone you trust. In that moment, you don't need perfect English. You need present English. English that carries your meaning. English that reflects your intention. English that sounds like you. And the more you allow that, the less power overthinking has. Because overthinking feeds on pressure. And presence dissolves pressure. So when your mind starts running ahead, gently bring it back to your breath, back to the sound of your voice, back to one simple sentence. That is always enough to begin again. I'm grateful you chose to spend this time with me, not because you needed another lesson, but because you allowed yourself a slower rhythm, a softer way of learning, a more human way of using English. Carry that softness with you into your speaking, into your mistakes, into your daily life. And when overthinking whispers, "You're not ready," you can answer, quietly but firmly, "I'm learning. and I'm allowed to speak. Thank you for staying until the very end. That choice says something gentle and meaningful about you. When we allow ourselves to stay, to listen fully, to feel without rushing, we practice the same skill that helps us speak more freely. Presence, patience, trust. If, after this episode, you feel a little quieter inside, that is not emptiness. That is space. And in that space, real language grows. Carry this feeling with you as you return to your day. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to prove anything. Just notice the moments when you speak, when you listen, when you choose kindness toward yourself. That is enough for today. This is English with Thomas. I'm Thomas. Keep speaking, keep growing, and keep trusting yourself.